They had the opportunity to tell the ultimate Karen story. This is an entitled, rude, rich white woman who hates black people, poor people, and kids just because she feels inconvenienced by them. And throughout the movie, always calling the manager. Always calling the manager Stanley Tucci, man. So there's a movie that scared the complete shit out of a generation of 90s kids. You're a 90s kid, right?
Yep, 1990, right on the cusp.
Yeah, I think you dodged this scary ass bullet right here, but a lot of other kids did not. They said, "Man, I would have had a job. I would have had a family. I would have been somebody if it weren't for that f***ing movie that scarred me for life back in 1990."
A little boy accidentally stumbles into their secret world.
It's me, Luke.
Oh my God, bald-headed hoes, mice talking like kids. Oh no. Oh yes, and the witches that are there, which were these completely scary creatures, man. But they say today, you know, during this day and age, we can make those witches a lot more scary with the technology that we have. I don't know if that's truly the case.
I watched the new one yesterday, woke up really early this morning and watched the 1990 version just to compare and contrast for you guys.
I did not see it at the time, but no one ever escapes any kind of movie today because eventually, somewhere, someday, somehow, someone is going to make a remake. So if you didn't see it the first time, you're going to catch it again, maybe in a different form. And that works out. That works out very well for this review because today this is going to be a real partnership here. There's going to be some real teamwork. I'm the newbie that has not seen The Witches before. I've only seen this new one that's come out. This man has seen both of them. So you're going to have somebody like me who is not going to be influenced by any kind of nostalgia or anything that I've seen before. And then you're going to have this man over here is going to just sit there and complain about how it's not like the original. You know, he's going to be that hipster right there. So this will be well balanced out, I think, man.
Well, when you think Jim Henson, you think like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal and shit. This one flies really low under the radar, so I just relish the opportunity to even kind of get my hands dirty with the old witches.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that the Jim Henson Studios was majorly involved with this, even though this was a Warner Brothers film, Warner Brothers released film. But you know, a lot of puppetry going on right there. Oh, and there it is. Ah, look at that. Oh my God, why y'all want to do these kids like this again? You took that horrible image right there that scared the f out these kids, and now you want to make it scarier? Oh my! And you want to bring in a director who already scared the shit out of kids with the Polar Express, Robert Zemeckis. You want to? Oh my God! This is going to be horrifying. This is going to be terrifying out there. I don't know. We should do this review right here. We might kill some of these kids. All right, folks. We're going to go ahead and watch the trailer for the 2020 remake of The Witches, and we'll be back with our review.
Grandma was a tough lady with a big heart. And little by little, she brought me out of my sadness.
Okay, one of the things I have to say here is a narration. Like if you didn't know any better, like if you just cut the TV on and this was on already, you think you'd be watching an episode of Everybody Hates Chris.
Be yourself or get a pump in your ass.
Mommy's gonna get you some ice chips, okay?
Better get a shoehorn too.
And Mama was the main witch. You know, I was looking at that and I was thinking, man, that narration throws me off completely. But we'll get into more of that as we get into our review in a little while.
You wouldn't happen to be carrying around a mouse.
Why on earth would I be carrying around a mouse?
Also doesn't help that this is written by originally Roald Dahl, who is constantly scaring the shit out of kids. Doesn't give a feelings. He's also responsible for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach. So he's scarred many a memory of children out there. You know, Chris Rock's narration in this when it opens up, I say, you know, I don't want to start out negative or anything, and it's not that much through the whole movie. But I will say that it's a little distracting. It's loud, almost leaning on slavish in a way. You know, they witches and they hates children. Yeah, I'm like, man, you know, it's if I tell you what, if somehow, some way Disney does a remake of Song of the South, Chris Rock would make a great Brer Rabbit, man. You know, he would actually be, the voice is there if they ever try to do this again. But as far as doing a movie like this at the beginning that's supposed to lure lull you in to what is essentially a fable and a fairy tale, it's distracting, you know, between the tone, between knowing who it is, the celebrity voice behind it, which you just keep being brought back to that. It's hard, man. It's, like I said, this is a storybook. You know, it's something like you'd read to kids to scare the hell out of them so they won't sleep at night. And you sure as hell won't get no sleep if Chris Rock is reading the story, because it's not, I'm not going to say I hate it, but it definitely is very loud and just kicks you out of the mood that they're trying to pull you in.
You're right. It doesn't ruin the overall experience or anything, but considering that's your first introduction to the world, I was like, oh man, like that left a really bad taste in my mouth to the point where I couldn't tell. And I think you said a really interesting word. You said tone. I'm going to repeat that a lot. But from the beginning, it really muddled what kind of tone the film was going to be.
You really do want to grab somebody when you are telling, you know, a storybook type of tale, or you're telling a fairy tale. You know, you definitely want to pull people in, and that's not the way. This is not the way to do it right here. When you have Octavia Spencer enter, that's when it becomes a lot of fun, man. She's the emotional anchor of this story. The story is that he doesn't have a name. He's just boy, a grandbaby, a grandchild. The Chris Rock character when he was a kid. I forgot the actor's name for this, for the little boy who plays him. But at the beginning of the movie, they talk about how in a car crash, his parents died, and his grandmother has to come in and be his guardian. And she's the one that really got me in here, because they just have some real sweet moments together. You know, it's a great combination too. Again, you know, they're making a big deal about, you know, this being retold with a black lead here and a little bit from a black perspective. So if anybody who's been in a household, you know, ain't no melodrama up in there, man. You know, she's a combination of loving and just taking no nonsense. Chris Rock, in his narration, one of the good parts is that he put it best. He said, you know what? She'll give you a hug when you needed it. She'll also beat your ass when you need it. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I thought, wow, you know what? That is like a lot of grandmothers of color and, you know, mothers of color that I've seen. You know, it's sweet the way she tries to get her grandson to cheer up. But there's a point where she tells him, she's like, all right, I'm getting tired of this sad shit. Cheer up. I'm going to whoop your ass. And I thought, all right, you know what? That is great. Because that means that they're not going way too into being emotionally manipulative, and they're not trying to make this too sad. And Octavia Spencer with this child actor here, once they start kind of growing together, and they start to bond, there's some real nice tender moments in there that make you think, all right, you know, if they continue along this line, this is going to be a really great character-driven kid story.
The first 25 minutes is easily the best part of the film for me. She's the thing that constantly hints that there is a better, deeper story floating around here somewhere.
Yeah.
The Four Tops musical scene that's in the trailer, but also the Otis Redding scene where she's sitting on the dock of the bay. All of that stuff really hit home in a very interesting way. The original film, we'll talk about this a little bit, was set in Norway. Where this one, it was set in Norway initially. I think they end up going to England. But in any case, they transplant the setting to, Alabama, right?
Yeah, it's Alabama, man. 1968 Alabama.
So immediately transporting that story, which I thought was really interesting. And the first 25 minutes just plays as a family drama about learning to live again after a tragedy. And I honestly, if the whole movie would have stuck to that, I would have been like, holy shit, this is going to be a surprisingly great movie.
Yeah, there was a moment I forgot that there were witches in this shit. You know, I was like, this is just a sweet story about a grandmother, you know, growing. It's like, look, it's TV level schmaltzy kind of storytelling there, but it works, man. It works very well with some very good actors, man. And it's playing well with that period. As we were saying, this is 1968 Alabama here. And there's just a lot of the nice touches there, man. Nice cultural family touches. Again, every black kid has had a grandmother that fed them a big old slice of cornbread that's bigger than their head. I love this the southern setting right here. I love the music. That moments that dance. You heard the Four Tops right there. They're playing the Isley Brothers, and they're just playing a lot of stuff that's really putting you in the mood of this period. I really like the colors that they use right here, man. There's a lot of bright colors that, even though they're telling this story about grief, there's a lot of bright colors that just are great for like a storybook type tale. It captures that feeling very well. And then the witches enter, and things take a turn for the better and for the worse. And I will tell you this, again, for the better or for worse, when the witches do come in, they're horrifying, man.
As soon as the titular witch, it's not a good thing that the movie's called The Witches, and yet as soon as the witches show up, you're like, you missed the movie that it was before. That was kind of my beef with it.
Yeah, and who the hell said that they don't like cornbread?
A turncoat. Get the fuck out of this country. I'm not one of those people, but if you don't like cornbread, what are you doing?
If you don't like corn, boy, you a straight up Yankee ass person, man. Like cornbread, man, that's the one time that you could actually have cake for dinner. Somebody got it right. Sweet cornbread with a big old stick of butter on top. Whoever said that, I need to, when COVID is over, I'm grabbing your ass. I'm bringing you to the South and gonna give you cornbread every day. If you don't know the magic of cornbread, then you need to shut your ass up until you actually try it.
They probably had like store-bought cornbread or some shit, which is not the same thing.
I don't mean to stop the show right now, but people don't like cornbread. You know what? Send me your address when this is done. I'm making some cornbread and I'm sending it to you. I'm mailing no one. And to that person that said cornbread is bad, I'm sending you good cornbread, because apparently you had shitty cornbread. If you had good cornbread, there's no such thing as a person who doesn't like cornbread if they make it right. I'm taking addresses. I'm taking names. All you getting cornbread today. I'm getting everybody
Oprah
out there.
gives away cars, but Corey Coleman gives away cornbread, y'all.
No, I don't get you sat on it. Look under your chair. Look on your chair. You got some cornbread. You got some cornbread. Your big ass got some cornbread. Yes. Everybody getting cornbread up in this bitch, man. Come here. You made me stop this goddamn review talking about I don't like cornbread. Don't ever say that shit around me, man. That's ignorant. Don't ever say that. You ain't had it. You ain't had it good. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry. That makes me mad. You don't tell nobody that from the South. All right. Where were
That's
we?
righteous anger, baby. You keep at it.
Yeah, man. I was born here in the South, raised in the South. Don't tell me that bullshit. Here's the thing, man. When the witches enter the picture here, and we're talking about how things take a turn. Well, let me just say, it's not, I don't mean that to say that it's completely bad. Because I'm going to tell you, man, before they even go full witch, which is like their full horrifying transformation into what they are. Because, most of the time you look at them, they kind of look like average women or good looking women, but they got that Joker cut in their mouth. And when they're first introduced, like you could tell that there's something wrong with their face. The expression is weird. And they have this weird way of talking that I found scary before they even went to their full transformation. There's one witch that corners the grandson in the store, and she's like, "Where you going, boy?" But she looks fine as hell, and it's like, man, that weirded me out. I would say this, they do some really good creepy things with the witches in here. And their backstory is kind of scary too, because simply put, they just hate kids, man. That's all it is. And the way they even describe it, why do they hate kids? Because kids, and they say because they smell like dog shit to witches. So that's a good enough penalty for death. And they spend a lot of times just turning kids into random animals. And those transformations, man. Those transformations are some really horrifying body horror stuff for a kids movie. when they do things to certain kids and turn them into certain animals, I'm not going to spoil everything for you, but skin starts sagging in weird ways. Their bodies go through some real weird contortions. Before they go full whatever creature that they're being turned into, they have like tumors on their bodies. You know, it's something that they're definitely not worried about how much they're going to frighten these kids. It's almost like that's the point. You know, I like that they're not afraid to like go in there and not worry about children's comfort zones, because kids are just like us, man, and they're just like adults. They love being scared too. When they do go full witch, those mouths, and I'm saying this as an adult, I don't know what this is going to do to kids, but as an adult, this freaked me the out. Because their mouths, if you can see right here, they're those lines that you saw, those lines, pretty much their cheeks rip open, and they have fangs, and they look like a cross between Venom and the Jack Nicholson Joker, man, which is not a good thing. It is truly a terrifying design that they did. I'm glad that they pushed it that far.
I'm not a huge fan of the CGI. I think that's my biggest point of contention, especially when you compare it to a lot of the practical stuff of the original one. But I do think that, like, yeah, they didn't not go for it. It was definitely way scarier than I thought it was going to be. It was most of this movie up until that point doesn't really play as a film that, you know, that kids need to be worried about anything to be scared of. Even when they do the initial witch in the candy store, hardware store thing, right, with the snake, like that's more about menace than any kind of grotesque thing that they're going to show you.
Let me just give some credit where credit is due before I really start going in negative on this. As far as the witches go, a lot of them, and I didn't see the original, so I don't know how much of them are just generic background, but Anne Hathaway embraced that mouth. She embraced that role, man. You know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking like, wow, you know, she really put herself into this. And it's funny too, because she did such a good job with this that even when she went full witch, there was something still attractive about her. Just seeing her have fun. Like, because all these witches have fingers missing, they have toes missing, they got boils in their and sores on their scalps. Sometimes they got a worm in it, and she'll pull it out and eat it. And she just seemed to like be under all that makeup and just completely let herself go, man. Which is good. Now I'm gonna tell you, that accent that she has in the movie, that shit is all over Europe. It's in Eastern Europe. It went over to Spain for a little bit. I think it even spent about a weekend in Mexico, man. So the accent, I don't know what to tell you about it. It didn't really bother me that much, because I was just like, well, maybe she's just doing some crazy witch talk too. You know, maybe it's a witch accent, so I can let it go. But as far as her performance though, man, and as far as the way that she just came in and just kind of just embraced the campiness of this character, I'm like, you know, good for you, man.
Anne Hathaway went for it, super committed. I thought Stanley Tucci was really great, you know, in a limited role. His job is to kind of walk this line between straight man and like absurdist. Everything about that like really works. So I just do want to say that I thought all the acting was really, really great. I want to also give credit to the transplanting of the setting. I thought that was like a nice. It was a smart idea. Whether they did enough with it, I don't know. And the last thing I want to say is the faithfulness to the movie or to the source material. We'll get into that a little bit later when we compare and contrast. But there are things to like about this film, certainly. But the things that I like did not add up to the plethora of things that I disliked about the movie.
What bothered me the most about this film is that they completely missed some storytelling opportunities. I mean, they blew a chance to go in and do some foreshadowing that could have added some mystery at the beginning of the movie. And sadly, they missed the opportunity to take advantage of some social issues, man. They had the opportunity to tell the ultimate Karen story. This is an entitled, rude, rich white woman who hates black people, poor people, and kids just because she feels inconvenienced by them. And throughout the movie, always calling the manager. Stanley Tucci, man. They had and I'm not making a joke, they had an opportunity to do this, and I'm not and so what you're going to think is, you're going to think, all right, I'm reading into this because I always want to bring a race issue into something. I'm not the one that did that shit. they're the ones that decide to like pull in a kid, a black kid, in 1968, Alabama, during the civil rights movement, during the time of MLK. You know, why change this to a black kid in 1968 if you're not going to do anything with that? Furthermore, why not just make it a black kid and make it today? Why not make it in modern times? And you can avoid the whole thing of having to really talk about any kind of race issues if you want. Why not just make it any kid in modern times?
Especially because they go to painstaking lengths to let you know what the setting is, right? Like, and it seems like a real missed opportunity. I completely agree with you that it's like in the year that the crossing of the bridge in Selma happened, there is like they go to extreme lengths to not acknowledge any kind of strife in the world at all.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to do something with the friend, with the Bruno, the English friend who ends up getting turned as well.
Oh yeah,
I thought his parents were going to meet the little kid, and I thought there was going to be some social commentary there. They run the opposite direction from it at every turn, which felt like such an odd choice considering they spent so much time trying to build the setting.
Like I said, it's not like I'm bringing this up out of nowhere. The movie actually brought it up. There's a point in the movie where Octavia Spencer is talking about not only what she knows about the witches, where she says, I know what their motives are. They like to go in and they like to hurt children that no one is going to care about. And they actually go into a backstory about a time when those two actually had some interaction. You know, Anne Hathaway's witch, the head witch of the council, she talks about how she went to some little ragged ass town, you know, over there, and how, you know, she looked, and it's hinted that she looks down on those people that lived in that little dirty shithole town. So they already kind of hinted at the reason why she picks some poor children and black children most of the time is because no one's going to actually miss them. It's easy. So they kind of bring this up. And I can tell you the reason why the element was brought in there, because you had Kenya Barris, who helped write the script. I'm just puzzled, like, why bring him in? Why introduce those elements there? Why have the setting here if we're not going to do anything with it? If you don't want to do anything with it, then don't put it in this in this environment. Don't put it in this context. It's just, to me, if you do that, if you actually skirt around the issue, then, you know, this is it's kind of, it's in a way, it's kind of whitewashing that history itself. In a way, it's kind of taking the easy way out. If you're going to, you know, it's funny, you want to scare children with these images right here, these horrifying witches, but you shy away from the, you know, some of the more horrifying real life stuff at the time, which they could have had a point of doing that. They could have said, you know, these witches are here, but baby, you know, there are things out there that are just as bad as these witches, and we have to deal with that every day. And they blew it, man. I'm
like you. When I actually looked at the thing, when I was rattling off Oscar winners earlier, I forgot Guillermo del Toro, who was a co-writer with Kenya Barris.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that there was, again, this much talent that it seemed like they were trying to set things up in the first act only for those things to fall by the wayside, whether it's the racial component or, by the way, and I don't mean, I'm sorry if this is not too spoilery or whatever, but the idea that they keep planting the seed in the first act about Octavia Spencer being sick. Like, that's the sole source of dramatic conflict when it comes to the character. And then that just kind of like disappears by the end of the movie.
And you're right, man. I forgot about that because they didn't do anything with it. They also have a situation in here where I don't want to spoil anything, but they have a third mouse here. And that third mouse, they could have set up something with her in the beginning to do some foreshadowing too. And they totally blow that, man. That mouse, out of nowhere, that mouse just starts talking, you know, starts trying to have some kind of personality, even though the character was never developed. Where at one time it was just a mouse, and it's like, wow, you know, we could have set up something where it's like, wow, that mouse is not like any kind of mouse we've seen before. Why is it acting like that? And then we learn the big secret about it later. But they don't, you know, they're not doing any of this. It's clunky and wasted storytelling opportunities, and I hate that sometimes more than just like, if you want to go in Fast and Furious, ain't trying to give you no great character development storytelling. They just want to race cars and go to space at some point and hopefully fight dinosaurs. But this right here, you know, I'd rather deal with storytelling like that, where it's like, we know we are and we're just giving people what they want. Where something like this, where it's like, man, we have so much potential here, and we're missing it. You know, we're missing it because we're not we're too distracted with something else to actually pay attention to the richness that we have here. And the reason why they miss it, and this is something I think, is because of Robert Zemeckis, man. Robert Zemeckis is you put special effects in front of that and he's just hypnotized. That's why recently he had a movie, Welcome to Marwen. And the biggest problem with that movie was it was based on a documentary which told a much better story because we were centered on the character. He made a remake of it and was so centered on bringing these CG dolls to life that he totally missed the point.
The women of Marwen protect me.
You are safe.
A toast, just for you.
You know, people were talking about why would you even make this if all you're gonna do is just showcase special effects, and you're gonna ignore this very much character-driven story based on a true story, especially when the documentary was so well done. It's almost like an insult. It's like, all right, you know, that dude's story, people want to see special effects. That's what was wrong with that. Robert Zemeckis is always more and more and more. He's being distracted by what can I do with this technology over what kind of story can I tell with this technology. And it kind of started. I mean, it started a while back, but you can see a lot of that when he was getting into things like the Polar Express. You know, hey, can I tell a story with a completely CG human and have people forget about it? No, you can't, because they look like zombies. So anyway, you get what I'm saying, man.
Other than like the main people, like all the witches, I don't know who any of those witches are. No, they might as well just be numbered numerically, witch 16 or some shit. Same thing with like the mice for the most part. I mean, the little friend English kid gets a little bit more motivation, but like Daisy, the other mice, does not. The characters barely exist. The other thing is tonally. Okay, like Anne Hathaway is so successful in this, I think, because she is walking that fine line between trying to be scary and also trying to be campy, right? There's something very endearing about that. Whereas, like, I feel like Zemeckis lost all ability to walk that fine line. Instead, he just swerves this way and that way between tones. And don't tell me he can't do it because he made Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit before he was 35 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he knows how to do that. And both of those films are movies that absolutely careen between different types of thing. I mean, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, as a kid, is a little confession. As a kid, the scene where Judge Doom blows himself back up and you find out that he's a toon, spoiler alert for that movie, is like horrified me, man. It was one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And the point is that he was always able to make it work. Like, it was a crazy mix of alchemy. He was a mad genius. But those same traits that made him like so endearing in the 80s, completely absent of this film.
Seriously, man, you look at the movies that he's done where they've kind of pulled back on the special effects sometimes and tried to tell more storytelling. I mean, Back to the Future is one of them. That thing wasn't full of special effects the whole movie. Was it Flight with Denzel Washington?
Right. Yeah.
Flight with Denzel, you know, he turned the plane upside down, and that was it. And it was more of a story-based film. And, you know, he did excellent with that. And there was a time when he had that balance, man. I mean, he was always trying new things. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of my favorite movies. It's and I think it's incredible. But I think today he's been like, all right, I'm the guy that kind of pioneers technology. I embrace the new technology, and I think he's almost like a form. He's got a form of Lukeism. George Lucasism, you know, where it's like I love tinkering now more than I love telling like a straightforward story. It's not without its fun parts. It's definitely not without its scary parts. There's some effective stuff in there, but definitely not the good movie that is under there with a proper rewrite. I'm frustrated with this movie more than I dislike it. It's got some moments of fun in there. And as I said, it's scary in some parts. It's genuinely scary, but not with much depth to it at all. Like I said, man, is there fun to be had? Yeah, cut it on. It's almost Halloween. Kids and some adults will be appropriately scared, and there will be moments that they laugh. I can't myself say that it was anything above a rental for me, and you know, you know, when you walk away with something and you're saying like, well, I'm glad I didn't spend money on that, and that says something. And I'm glad I didn't. Enjoyed it, but glad I didn't have to go to any kind of work to get to it, and glad I didn't have to definitely glad I didn't have to spend any money on it.
Which, if that's the barometer of it, isn't it? Like, I would say it's a high some old bullshit. I got to be honest. A lot of the writing just falls apart, and that's like my biggest problem with it. I will say this in its defense really quickly, because you brought up the CGI and practicality, whatever. Like, that's a personal preference. I always go practical more. I'm not trying to, I'm not jerking off the ghost of Jim Henson or anything like that. I just think that it was more effective. The one thing I will say is, and I found this out while researching it, the 1990 film, Roald Dahl was like, this movie, like wanted to straight up disavow it.
People I have not seen, as I said earlier. As much as I hear is great, and as much as I hear Angelica Houston is amazing in this, I have not seen the original, but the execution of certain things, there's a cutesy montage and whatnot, I thought that was pretty bad. I actually thought this ending was horrible.
That made me mad, because I'm like, that's the sequel I want to see. And it seemed like they left the room open for it, right? We're going to go to America and do this shit. Yeah. I thought that was incredible, but they didn't follow through with it.
This is genuinely creepy, so, cut it on. Watch it with the kids, and you'll have a good time. Just go in, I would say, parents, if you're going in with memories of the original, going with low expectations, and be prepared for the kids to, I say this much, to its credit, be prepared for these kids to be scared as man. Little kids, they are not going to want to sleep alone for the next few nights. So it is effective on that level. So it does work. It's right where it needs to be. So, everything's fine, at least on my part. Christian said bullshit, though, right?
The highest of high, some old bullshit that you can possibly do.
Okay, that's definitely kind of positive. High bullshit, man. You are you know what? You just told them, you know what? You are the perfect piece of shit. You're great.
I'm not talking outside of school here. 4 Oscar winners, and you have all the budget in the world, and this is the best that you can do. And it's not like it took chances and it failed. It was that it set up all these things and then fundamentally failed. Like they've been making films for like 30 years. These guys, they know how to do this. Like it's just to give them a higher rating because there are things I enjoyed would be disingenuous to the film. I'm not
arguing with you, man. I'm not even trying to defend the movie. If you gave us some bullshit, I'm happy for that, because they're, as far as I'm concerned, they earned it in certain levels. I just like I just like the way you're just being very nice about it. It's like you're telling somebody, hey, you know what, you're a piece of shit, but you are the best piece of shit. You're awesome.
Yeah, if you say things with a smile, the door's open for you.